I feel so weird and maybe ungrateful for something I did. I just need to confess to my folks here because I feel like a lot of times you guys are my folks. Thanks for following me and getting into my conservation trip with me. So many of you are awesome conservationists, and I appreciate that. Some of you are learning, and I appreciate your willingness to learn. So let me tell you what I did. So someone sent me this book, and her name is Kristy Hamilton, and she sent it to me like 3 years ago, and maybe 2 years ago. And I couldn't remember who she was, but she was just like, hey, Griff, nice talking to you. Here's my book. I talked to so many people, especially when I worked for state parks in Humboldt Redwoods. I talked to like hundreds and hundreds of people today. And I talked to them about the books I write and stuff like that. So I couldn't remember who it was. So I got it. And the book, I opened it up and I read the thing. And I'm just going to read you like 2 seconds of this. When astronomers wanted a telescope that could capture X-rays from celestial bodies, they looked to the lobster. When doctors wanted a medication that could stabilize type 2 diabetic patients, they found their muse in a lizard. When scientists wanted to drastically reduce emissions in cement manufacturing, they observed how corals construct their skeletons in the sea. This is biomimicry in action, taking inspiration from nature to tackle human challenges. And so I read the first chapter, which is about tardigrades, you know, those little like teddy bear looking things that can live in space and underwater and in your ear hole or whatever. And it was so good. And I was like, wow, this is really good. But I was moving. So I stuck it in a box and I moved and I was like, whatever happened to that book? And I couldn't find it. So I bought another one and I had that book and I reread the first chapter and I was like, that was so good. And then I lost it. So this woman in the meantime hit me up, Kristy Hamilton, and she's like, oh, can you, review the book? And I was like, yeah, you know, I got to find it and finish reading it. And I put it off and I've got ADHD elemental P. So I was like, blah, 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 and oh, shiny things and doing all my Griff stuff. And I'm super busy. You know, I got like 3 or 4 jobs going on and blah, blah, blah. So, and not all of them pay. And so like I'm hustling and doing all this kind of stuff. And, so those are my excuses for why I didn't go to the next chapter. And chapter 3 is about, I'm like the feature. So I didn't go to the next chapters and I opened it up this morning because I finally found it. And I was like, yeah, I found it. I'm going to read it. And there's a section about redwoods. And I was like, oh, how cool. And then here's the thing. So I met with Griff and we walked into the forest. And pretty much the whole chapter kind of features on me. And she didn't tell me that I was in the book. It was a surprise. And 3 years later, I finally read it. So there's a couple lessons in here. One is, if you do write an awesome, incredible book, and I'm not just saying that because I'm in this book. I loved this book before I even knew that I was in it. And that's why I bought another copy and was looking for it and stuff. And so, and then I remembered who it was. So there was this young lady who wanted to go for a walk with me, and Save the Redwood League said, you should really take her for a walk. And I took her for a walk, and she was brilliant, super smart. And she taught me all this stuff while we were walking, this really cool biomimicry stuff. And I said, no, and she was the one that wrote the book, but she seems so young. So she's a PhD named Kristy Hamilton. And she was wondering, and now I know who she is. And I just feel terrible because she wrote this amazing book that can really help connect people to nature, because it shows how things have purposes that we don't realize they have, like lobster eyes, and how coastal redwoods are actually going to save the water crisis in a lot of developing countries by, people replicating mechanically what redwoods do organically. And that's what this book's about. It's about solutions using nature. It's just so right up my alley, and I'm in it, and I didn't even know. So I'm going to continue reading this book, and I'm going to talk about it a lot because this is one of my favorite subjects, and I happen to be in it. What a dream come true. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm such a lucky person to be included in stuff like this, and it makes me so, so grateful. And especially someone like this, Kristy Hamilton, who's like super, super smart, because I looked her up afterwards. So I'm going to contact her and tell her I am so sorry for being late, but you know what? I got you now, because this is a solutionary book. This is the kind of book people who don't care about conservation need to know about, because this shows them how nature has connections to stuff that will benefit humanity besides just the environmental services like oxygen and clean water and food, but also technology, majorly technology. So in this book, she goes over a bunch of really cool things. I won't tell you now, but I'll be back with this book. You better know that I'll be back with this book. Love y'all.